Sometimes a single flat tire can steer us toward everything we never knew we were searching for. When a struggling single dad stopped to help a stranded woman on a dark mountain road, he thought he was just changing another tire. What he didn't know was that the elegant stranger in designer heels was worth more than his entire town combined, and that his simple act of kindness was about to transform both their worlds forever. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Jesse Morgan wiped the grease from his weathered hands as the autumn wind rattled the windows of his small automotive repair shop in the mountain town of Cedar Falls. The digital clock on his workbench glowed 8:47 p.m., long past the time when most businesses in their quiet community would have closed their doors. But Jesse's auto care wasn't like most businesses. It was his lifeline, his daughter's future, and the thin thread that kept them both from slipping into the kind of poverty that swallowed dreams whole. Outside, the Colorado Rockies loomed like sleeping giants against the star-studded sky, their peaks dusted with the first snow of the season. Cedar Falls nestled in their shadow like a forgotten jewelry box, home to barely 3,000 souls who made their living from tourism, logging, or the handful of small businesses that served the winding mountain highway connecting Denver to the ski resorts beyond. Jesse's shop sat at the edge of town, a modest building with peeling paint and a hand-painted sign that had weathered 17 winters since he'd first opened its doors. Back then, he'd been 22, newly married, and full of dreams about building something lasting in the town where he'd grown up. Sarah had believed in those dreams too, her eyes lighting up when he talked about expanding the business, maybe opening a second location down in Evergreen. Those dreams felt like they belonged to someone else now. The soft creak of the office. Doctor drew his attention, and Jesse looked up to see his 15-year-old daughter Emma emerge from the back room, her textbooks balanced precariously in her arms. Her blonde hair, so much like her mother's, caught the fluorescent light as she set her homework on the counter and rubbed her tired eyes. "Dad, you know I can walk home, right?" Emma said, though there was no real complaint in her voice. She'd been coming to the shop after school for 3 years now, ever since Sarah's battle with lupus had ended and left them both adrift in a world that suddenly felt too big and too empty. "I know you can, sweetheart," Jesse replied, setting down his wrench and giving her his full attention. "But humor your old man. Besides, Mrs. Patterson said she's making her famous apple pie tonight, and if we time it right, we might get invited." "For dessert," Emma smiled, the expression transforming her serious face into something that reminded Jesse so powerfully of Sarah that his chest tightened. At 15, Emma was already showing signs of the woman she would become. Intelligent, compassionate, and far too mature for someone who should have been worried about homework and weekend plans rather than whether the electricity bill would get paid on time. Jesse had tried to shield her from the worst of their financial struggles, but teenagers weren't easily fooled. Emma knew that her father worked 16-hour days, not because he loved cars, but because every repair job meant groceries on the table and gas in their aging Honda Civic. She knew that her college fund had been emptied to pay for her mother's medical treatments, and that the scholarship applications stacked on her desk weren't just about academic opportunity, they were about survival. "How's the Henderson truck coming along?" Emma asked, settling onto the stool behind the counter and opening her chemistry textbook. She'd grown up in this shop, and she could diagnose engine problems better than most adults in town. "Transmissions. Shot," Jesse said, wiping his hands on a rag that had seen better decades. "I could rebuild it, but Tom Henderson doesn't have that kind of money right now. Nobody in Cedar Falls does." It was the truth that hung over their small community like the mountain mist that rolled in each evening. Cedar Falls was dying slowly, one family at a time. The young people left for college and never came back. The older residents found themselves Priced out as wealthy Denver families bought up properties for vacation homes that sat empty 11 months of the year. Jesse watched it happen with a mixture of sadness and determination. Sadness for what was being lost, determination to hold onto what remained. This economic reality was harsh but simple. Jesse could keep maybe a dozen vehicles running in good repair, enough to serve the permanent residents and the occasional tourist whose car broke down on the mountain pass. It was honest work, necessary work, but it wasn't the kind of income that built college funds or retirement accounts. It was the kind of income that kept you alive 1 month at a time, always walking the tightrope between making it and losing everything. Emma's phone buzzed, and she glanced at it with the casual attention of someone who'd grown up in the age of constant connection. Jesse envied that sometimes the way his daughter could slide seamlessly between the physical world of their small town and the digital universe where geography didn't matter. She had friends online from places he'd never visited, opportunities that existed beyond the mountain passes that defined his world. Cassie got accepted to CSU, Emma said quietly, not looking up from her textbook. Full scholarship. Jesse felt the familiar tug of pride mixed with worry. Cassie Williams had been Emma's best friend since elementary school, a bright kid whose parents ran the failing diner on Main Street. A full scholarship to Colorado State University was a golden ticket, a chance to escape the economic gravity that pulled so many young people down into lives of quiet struggle. "That's wonderful," Jesse said, and he meant it. "You'll get one too. Your grades are better than Cassie's, and your essay about growing up in Cedar Falls made me cry." Emma smiled, but it was the kind of smile that carried the weight of uncertainty. They both knew that scholarships were competitive, that bright kids from small mountain towns were competing against bright kids from everywhere else, that wanting something desperately didn't guarantee you'd get it. The sound of tires on gravel interrupted Jesse's thoughts, and he looked up in surprise. It was nearly 9 o'clock on a Thursday night, well past the time when anyone in Cedar Falls would be out looking for automotive service. Maybe it was Tom Henderson coming to check on his truck, or Mrs. Patterson with news about that apple pie. Jesse walked to the window and peered out into the darkness. The parking lot was empty except for his own Honda and Emma's bicycle. But he could hear an engine idling somewhere close by, the sound echoing off the mountain walls in that particular way that meant someone was lost or in trouble. He stepped outside, the October air sharp against his skin, and listened. The engine sound was coming from the direction of the highway, beyond the reach of his shop's security lights. Someone was out there in the darkness, and in a place like Cedar Falls, that usually meant someone needed help. Jesse grabbed his jacket from the hook by the door and called back to Emma, "I'll be right back, sweetheart. Someone might need assistance." As he walked toward the sound of the idling engine, Jesse had no way of knowing that his simple decision to investigate would set into motion a chain of events that would challenge everything he thought he knew about love, family, and the distance between two very different worlds. He was just a man walking into the darkness, guided by the same instinct that had led him to help neighbors and strangers for as long as he could remember. Sometimes the most extraordinary stories begin with the most ordinary moments. Sometimes a single step into the unknown changes everything that comes after. Jesse followed the sound of the struggling engine through the crisp mountain air, his breath forming small clouds in the October chill. The noise led him past the edge of his property and onto the shoulder of Highway 285, where the asphalt disappeared into curves that wound treacherously through the mountain passes. What he found there made him stop in his tracks. A sleek silver Maserati sat tilted at an awkward angle on the narrow shoulder, its hazard lights blinking like a desperate SOS against the darkness. The luxury sports car looked as out of place on this remote mountain highway as a diamond ring in a hardware store. Its low profile and racing lines were designed for smooth city streets and European autobahns, not the rough-hewn reality of Colorado mountain roads where potholes and sudden weather changes could humble even the most expensive machinery. As Jesse approached, he could see steam rising from beneath the hood, and the unmistakable smell of overheated engine coolant hung in the cold air. But what caught his attention even more than the mechanical distress was the figure standing beside the car, silhouetted against the headlights like something from another world entirely. The woman was tall and elegant, wrapped in what Jesse's untrained eye could only describe as the kind of coat that probably cost more than his monthly mortgage payment. Her long dark hair was pulled back in a style that managed to look effortlessly perfect. Despite the mountain wind, and even in the dim light, he could see the gleam of jewelry that caught and reflected the car's hazard lights. She was pacing back and forth beside the vehicle, a phone pressed to her ear, her voice carrying a tone of controlled frustration that suggested she was accustomed to problems being solved quickly and efficiently. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. "No, you don't understand," she was saying into the phone, her accent carrying the crisp enunciation of someone who had been educated at the finest schools. "I need someone here within the hour. This isn't a request, it's a necessity." There was a pause, and Jesse could hear the tinny sound of a voice on the other end, delivering what was clearly unwelcome news. "What do you mean the nearest service is 3 hours away? I don't care if it's after business hours. I'll pay whatever it takes." Jesse cleared his throat softly as he approached, not wanting to startle her. The woman spun around, and in the glow of the headlights, he caught his first clear look at her face. She was probably in her early 30s, with the kind of classical beauty that belonged on magazine covers, rather than stranded on remote mountain highways. Her dark eyes were wide, with a mixture of frustration and something that might have been fear, though she was clearly trying to maintain her composure. "Excuse me," Jesse said, raising his hands in a peaceful gesture as he noticed her instinctive step backward. "I heard your car from my shop down the road. Looks like you might need some help." The woman's eyes darted from Jesse to his modest work clothes, jeans worn soft from years of honest labor, a flannel shirt with the sleeves rolled up despite the cold, and hands that bore the permanent stains of someone who worked with engines for a living. Jesse was suddenly aware of how he must look to someone like her, a mountain man emerging from the darkness, probably the last person she'd expect to trust with her expensive automobile. "I've already called for assistance," she said carefully, though the phone in her hand suggested that assistance wasn't coming anytime soon. "Thank you, but I'm sure I'll be fine." Jesse nodded, recognizing the polite but firm dismissal. He'd encountered it before from the occasional wealthy tourist whose GPS had led them astray in the mountains. There was a particular way that people with money looked at people without it, not necessarily cruel, but cautious, as if poverty might be contagious. "That's a beautiful car," he said simply, making no move to come closer. "Maserati Gran Turismo. Right, 2018 or 2019? The woman's eyebrows rose slightly in surprise. 2019, she said, and Jesse caught the first hint of curiosity in her voice. Thought so. The newer models have that distinctive grille design. Jesse pointed toward the front of the car without approaching. "Mind if I ask what happened? These cars are usually pretty reliable, but mountain driving can be tough on vehicles that aren't designed for it." "I was driving back to Denver from Aspen," she explained, and Jesse noted that she didn't volunteer why she'd been in Aspen or where exactly in Denver she was headed. Everything was fine until about 10 minutes ago when steam started pouring out from under the hood. "The engine temperature gauge is in the red zone," Jesse nodded knowingly. Probably a coolant leak. Could be a hose, could be the radiator, could be something as simple as a loose clamp. The altitude changes and temperature fluctuations up here can cause problems for cars that aren't used to mountain conditions. He paused, studying her face in the dim light. How long did your service company say it would take to get someone out here? The woman's composure cracked just slightly. 3 hours, maybe 4, depending on whether they can find the location. She gestured helplessly at the darkness surrounding them. I have meetings in Denver first thing in the morning. Important. Meetings that I cannot miss. Jesse glanced at his watch. Nearly 9:30 at night, which meant even if service arrived on schedule, she wouldn't reach Denver until well after midnight. And that was assuming the problem could be fixed on the roadside, which was far from certain with a complex European luxury car. Look, Jesse said, his voice gentle but practical. I don't want to overstep, but I run the auto shop about a quarter-mile back down the road. I've been working on cars for 20 years, and while I'll admit I don't see many Maseratis in Cedar Falls, an overheating engine is an overheating engine, whether it's a 30-year-old pickup truck or a $250,000 sports car. The woman studied him for a long moment, and Jesse could practically see the internal debate playing out behind her eyes. Trust a stranger in work clothes with her expensive car, or wait hours for professional help that might not arrive until... Morning, I'm Jesse Morgan, he said, pulling his business card from his wallet and offering it to her. The card was simple, just his name, the shop's name, and a phone number, but it was legitimate, printed on actual cardstock rather than handwritten. On a scrap of paper, she took the card, studying it in the light from her phone. Autumn Coleman, she said after a moment's hesitation, and Jesse noted that she offered only her first name. Nice to meet you, Autumn. Now, I can't promise I can fix whatever's wrong with your car tonight, but I can at least take a look and give you an honest assessment. If it's something simple, a loose hose or a blown gasket, I might be able to get you back on the road. If it's something complicated, at least you'll know what you're dealing with when the Denver service team arrives. Autumn glanced back at her phone, where presumably her original service call was still on hold, then at the steam still rising from her car's engine. The mountain wind picked up, sending a chill through the air that made even her expensive coat seem inadequate. What would something like that cost, she asked, and Jesse heard the careful tone of someone who was accustomed to being overcharged. For emergency services, nothing. Jesse said simply. I'm not going to charge you for taking a look. If I can make a quick repair to get you safely down the mountain, we can talk about what's fair. But I'm not in the business of taking advantage of people who are stranded. Autumn's expression shifted, surprise replacing wariness. In her world, Jesse suspected nothing came free, and everyone had an angle. The idea that a stranger might offer help without an immediate expectation of payment was probably as foreign to her as her Maserati was to his mountain highway. You would do that? She asked, and there was something almost vulnerable in the question. Jesse shrugged. Ma'am, if my daughter was stranded on a dark highway somewhere, I'd hope someone would stop to help her. That's just how things work up. Here, for the first time since he'd approached, Autumn Coleman smiled. A real smile that transformed her face from elegant to genuinely beautiful. All right, Mr. Morgan, I would very much appreciate your help. Jesse walked back to his shop to retrieve his tools and his tow truck, a sturdy Ford F-350 that had seen better decades, but still ran like a dream. Emma looked up from her homework as he gathered his emergency kit, her expression curious but unsurprised. She'd grown up watching her father drop everything to help stranded motorists, whether they could pay or not. Someone broke down. She asked, not looking up from her chemistry equations. Maserati with an overheating problem, Jesse said, checking his toolkit. Owner seems nice enough, just stuck in a bad situation. Emma's eyebrows rose. A Maserati in Cedar Falls. That's like finding a unicorn in the grocery store. Jesse chuckled. Something like that. I shouldn't be long, but if Mrs. Patterson calls about that pie, tell her we'll take a rain check. When Jesse returned to the highway with his truck, Autumn was still standing beside her car, but she'd ended her phone call and seemed more relaxed. The contrast between her elegant figure and the rugged mountain landscape struck him again. She looked like someone who belonged in penthouses and boardrooms, not on the shoulder of a lonely mountain highway at nearly 10 o'clock at night. "I've called off the Denver service," she said, as Jesse backed his truck into position. "I figured if you're willing to help, there's no point in waiting hours for someone else." Jesse nodded, connecting the tow cables with practiced efficiency. "Smart decision. Even if I can't fix it tonight, I can at least get your car somewhere safe and warm while we figure out what's wrong." As the Maserati was lifted onto the flatbed, Autumn climbed into the passenger seat of Jesse's truck. The cab was clean, but clearly well used, with coffee stains on the console and a stack of Emma's textbooks on the floor. The radio was tuned to a classic rock station, playing softly in the background. "This is very kind of you," Autumn said, as they drove the short distance back to the shop. "I have to admit, when I saw you walking out of the darkness, I wasn't sure what to think." Jesse glanced at her, noting the way she sat with perfect posture even in his beat-up truck. "I imagine a guy in work clothes approaching your car on a dark highway isn't exactly what you're used to." "Not exactly," she admitted with a small laugh. "In my usual world, when something breaks, you call someone and they fix it. You don't really interact with the people who do the actual work. There was something honest about the admission that Jesse appreciated. No pretense that she was anything other than what she obviously was. Someone from a world where money solved problems and personal involvement was unnecessary. At the shop, Jesse maneuvered the Maserati into his largest bay, the one usually reserved for pickup trucks and SUVs. Under the bright fluorescent lights, the car's elegance was even more pronounced. The silver paint gleamed like liquid mercury, and every line spoke of engineering precision and aesthetic perfection. Emma appeared in the doorway, drawn by curiosity despite her homework. When she saw Autumn stepping out of her father's truck, her eyes widened slightly. Autumn was even more striking under the shop lights, her dark hair catching the illumination, her movements graceful despite the incongruous setting. "Emma, this is Ms. Coleman," Jesse said. "Autumn, this is my daughter Emma." "Please, just Autumn," she said, extending her hand to Emma with the same courtesy she might show to an adult. "Your father is being incredibly helpful." Emma shook the offered hand, clearly impressed by being treated as an equal. "Dad helps everyone," she said with the matter-of-fact tone of someone stating an obvious truth. "Last month, he drove 2 hours to help Mrs. Chen fix her car when it broke down near the ski resort." Jesse felt his cheeks warm slightly at his daughter's casual praise. "Emma, why don't you show Autumn where she can sit while I take a look at the engine?" Emma led Autumn to the small office area, clearing textbooks from the best chair and offering her a bottle of water from the mini fridge. Jesse watched the interaction with interest. Emma was usually shy around strangers, especially adults, but something about Autumn's genuine manner seemed to put her at ease. "What are you studying?" Autumn asked, settling into the chair and looking with interest at Emma's scattered homework. "Chemistry," Emma replied, then added with a slight grimace, "I'm trying to understand molecular bonding, but it's not exactly clicking." "Oh, I remember struggling with that too," Autumn said, and Jesse was surprised to hear genuine empathy in her voice rather than polite dismissal. "The trick is to think of it like relationships between people. Some bonds are strong and stable, others are temporary, and some are so volatile they explode when they come together." Emma's face lit up with understanding. "That actually makes sense. So ionic bonds are like opposites attracting." "Exactly. And covalent bonds are like partnerships where both sides contribute equally." Jesse found himself listening to their conversation as he popped the hood of the Maserati and began his investigation. There was something unexpected about hearing a woman who clearly moved in rarefied circles discussing high school chemistry with the patience of a natural teacher. Under the hood, the problem was immediately apparent. A coolant hose had developed, a pinhole leak, small enough that it had taken time to cause trouble, but large enough to create significant pressure loss. The radiator itself was fine, as was the engine block. It was the kind of repair that would cost hundreds of dollars at a dealership, but could be fixed with a $20 part and 30 minutes of work. "Good news," Jesse called out, straightening up and wiping his hands. "It's just a coolant hose, simple fix." Autumn appeared at his elbow, and Jesse caught a hint of expensive perfume that seemed entirely out of place in his grease-scented shop. "How simple. I've got the part in stock, and it should take me about half an hour to replace it. You'll be back on the road before 11. Relief flooded Autumn's face. "Thank you. I can't tell you how much this means to me." As Jesse worked, replacing the damaged hose and refilling the coolant system, he found himself sneaking glances at Autumn. She didn't hover or ask anxious questions like some customers did. Instead, she sat with Emma, helping her work through chemistry problems with a patience that seemed natural rather than forced. "So you're applying to colleges?" Jesse heard Autumn ask. "Trying to," Emma replied. "Dad says I'm smart enough to get scholarships, but there are a lot of smart kids out there." "What do you want to study?" Emma hesitated. "I love science, but I also love writing. Dad says I should pick something practical that will guarantee me a job." Jesse felt a familiar stab of guilt. He'd said exactly that, motivated by his own fears about financial security and Emma's future, but hearing it repeated made him realize how limiting it might sound to a teenager with dreams. "Practical is important," Autumn said carefully, "but so is passion. The best careers usually combine both. Have you thought about science journalism, technical writing? There are lots of ways to bridge different interests." "I hadn't thought of that," Emma said, and Jesse could hear the excitement in her voice. "The world needs people who can translate complex ideas for regular folks," Autumn continued. "Scientists who can write, writers who understand science, they're incredibly valuable." Jesse finished the repair and started the Maserati's engine. It purred to life with the smooth confidence of European engineering, the temperature gauge settling into the normal range. He let it run for several minutes, checking for leaks and ensuring the repair was solid. "All done," he announced, shutting off the engine. Autumn stood up, and Jesse noticed she moved with the unconscious grace of someone who had been taught proper posture and deportment from an early age. But there was nothing artificial about her smile as she looked at him. "I don't know how to thank you," she said. "You've saved my entire weekend." "Just glad I could help," Jesse replied, stripping off his work gloves. "That'll be $40 for the part. No charge for the labor." Autumn stared at him. $40, that's all? That's what the part cost me. I told you I wasn't going to take advantage." She reached into her purse and pulled out her wallet. Jesse caught a glimpse of multiple credit cards and what looked like several $100s in cash. She handed him two 20s, then paused and pulled out another $100 bill. "Please," she said when Jesse started to protest. "For your time and for being so kind to Emma." Jesse looked at the money, then at Emma, who was watching the exchange with interest. $140 would cover groceries for 2 weeks, or a significant chunk of Emma's college application fees. Pride warred with practicality, and practicality won. "Thank you," he said simply. "That's very generous." Autumn smiled, and for a moment, the polished exterior slipped away entirely, revealing something warmer and more genuine underneath. "It's the least I can do. You've both been wonderful." As she prepared to leave, Autumn turned to Emma. "Keep thinking about those career ideas we discussed. And don't let anyone tell you that you have to choose between practical and passionate. The best life combines both. Emma beamed, clearly smitten with this elegant stranger who had taken her seriously and treated her like an adult. Will we see you again? Autumn hesitated, glancing at Jessie. I don't know, she said honestly, but I hope so. She climbed into her Maserati, and Jessie watched as she carefully navigated out of the shop and back onto the highway. The red taillights disappeared around the first curve, leaving only the echo of a finely tuned engine and the lingering scent of expensive perfume. She was nice, Emma said, breaking the silence. Yes, Jessie agreed, still staring at the empty highway. She was. Neither of them could have guessed that within 24 hours, their quiet mountain life would be turned completely upside down. The next morning dawned crisp and clear, with the kind of crystalline mountain air that made the peaks look close. Enough to touch. Jessie was already at work by 7, wrestling with the transmission on Tom Henderson's pickup truck when he heard the distinctive purr of a high-performance engine turning into his lot. He looked up from the truck's undercarriage, expecting to see another tourist whose GPS had led them astray, but his heart skipped when he recognized the silver Maserati from the night before. Autumn Coleman stepped out of her car, but she looked entirely different than she had 12 hours earlier. Gone were the elegant coat and designer heels. Instead, she wore dark jeans that actually looked broken in rather than artfully distressed. A cream-colored cashmere sweater that managed to be both casual and obviously expensive, and leather boots that seemed designed for walking rather than impressing. Her dark hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, and she carried a paper bag that smelled like fresh coffee and something sweet. "Good morning," she called out, her voice carrying a note of uncertainty that hadn't been there the night before. "I hope I'm not interrupting." Jessie slid out from under the truck, wiping his hands on a rag. "Not at all. How's the car running?" "Perfectly. I made it to Denver without any problems, thanks to you." She held up the paper bag. "I brought coffee and pastries from that little bakery on Main Street. I thought it might be a nice way to say, thank you again." Jessie found himself smiling despite his confusion. "That's very thoughtful, but you already thanked me. More than generously." Autumn shifted her weight from one foot to the other, a gesture that made her seem almost nervous. "Actually, I have a confession to make. I didn't just come back to bring coffee." "Oh? Coffee? Oh?" "I couldn't stop thinking about what you said last night, about how, if your daughter was stranded somewhere, you'd hope someone would help her." Autumn paused, looking around the modest shop with its peeling paint and collection of aging tools. "I've been thinking about kindness and how rare it is to encounter the genuine article. Most of the time, when people help me, it's because they want something in return." Jessie studied her face, noting the way she seemed to be choosing her words carefully. "And you're not used to people helping you just because it's the right thing to do." "Exactly." Autumn's smile was rueful. "It made me realize how insulated my life has become, how little genuine human connection I have." She gestured toward the coffee bag. "So I thought maybe we could have breakfast together, if you have time, that is." Before Jessie could answer, Emma's voice called out from the office. "Dad, is that Autumn?" "It is," Autumn called back, her face lighting up at the teenager's recognition. Emma appeared in the doorway, her school backpack slung over one shoulder. "I was just heading to school. Did you make it to Denver okay?" "I did, thanks to your father, and I brought coffee to celebrate." Autumn's smile was warm and genuine as she looked at Emma. "I also wanted to ask you something. I looked up some of those career paths we discussed last night, and I found some interesting articles about science communication. Would you like me to email them to you?" Emma's eyes widened with excitement. "Really? Yes, please. Give me your email address and I'll send them over this afternoon." As Emma rattled off her email address, Jessie found himself studying Autumn with new eyes. She could have simply driven past his shop on her way back to whatever world she'd come from. The fact that she'd made a deliberate detour to bring coffee and follow up on a conversation with his daughter suggested something deeper than simple politeness. After Emma left for school, Jesse and Autumn sat on the worn wooden chairs outside his office, sharing coffee that was better than anything Jesse usually drank and pastries that dissolved on his tongue like sweet clouds. The morning sun streamed through the shop's open bay doors, and somewhere in the distance, a mountain jay called out its raucous greeting to the day. "This is nice," Autumn said, cradling her coffee cup and looking around the shop with what appeared to be genuine appreciation. "Peaceful." "It can be," Jesse agreed, "though it's usually a bit noisier when I've got multiple projects going." "How long have you been doing this?" 20 years, give or take. Started right out of high school. Jesse took a sip of coffee, surprised by how easy it was to talk to her. "My dad was a mechanic. His dad before him. I guess you could say it's in my blood. And you've always lived in Cedar Falls?" Jesse nodded. "Born and raised. Met my wife here. Thought I'd die here." He paused, realizing what he'd just said. "That probably sounds incredibly boring to someone like you." "Someone like me?" Jessie gestured vaguely at her car, her clothes, the way she carried herself. "Someone who's obviously traveled the world, seen things, done things." Autumn was quiet for a moment, staring into her coffee cup. "You might be surprised by how boring my life actually is. Boardrooms, conference calls, business dinners, where everyone says the right things, but no one means any of it." She looked up at him. "When was the last time someone was genuinely kind to you without wanting something in return?" The question caught Jesse off guard. He thought about it, running through recent interactions with customers, neighbors, friends. "I guess most people in Cedar Falls are pretty decent to each other. We have to be. When you live in a small community, you learn that everyone depends on everyone else." "That's what I mean," Autumn said softly. "Real community, real connection. I can't remember the last time I experienced that." They were interrupted by the arrival of Mrs. Patterson, Jesse's elderly neighbor, who pulled up in her ancient Buick with a concerning rattling sound coming from the engine. "Jessie, dear," she called out as she struggled to extract herself from the driver's seat. "I think Bertha is acting up again." Jesse immediately stood to help her, offering his arm for support. "What's she doing now, Mrs. P?" "Making the most awful grinding noise when I turn corners, and she's shaking like a leaf in a windstorm." As Jesse listened to Mrs. Patterson describe her car's symptoms, he was aware of Autumn watching the interaction with interest. The elderly woman was one of those people who could talk for an hour about a 5-minute problem, but Jesse listened with patience, asking clarifying questions and nodding at appropriate intervals. "Tell you what," Jessie said when she finished her detailed recitation. "Let me take a quick look under the hood. It might be something simple." As Jessie popped the hood of the Buick, Mrs. Patterson noticed Autumn for the first time. "Oh my, I didn't realize you had company." "Mrs. Patterson, this is Autumn Coleman." "Autumn, this is my neighbor, Mrs. Patterson. She makes the best apple pie in 3 counties. 2 counties, Mrs. Patterson corrected, with a pleased smile. "The Henderson woman over in Fairplay has me beat, but I'm not giving up." She studied Autumn with the frank curiosity of someone who had lived long enough to speak her mind. "You're not from around here?" "No, ma'am, I'm from Denver. Pretty far to drive for car trouble." Jessie must have done good work. Autumn glanced at Jessie, who was bent over the engine, completely absorbed in diagnosing the problem. "Very good work, and he was incredibly kind when I was stranded last night." Mrs. Patterson beamed with pride. "That's our Jessie. When my Harold passed 5 years ago, Jessie spent 3 days helping me sort through his tools and organize the garage. Wouldn't take a penny for it." Jessie looked up from the engine, his cheeks slightly red. "Mrs. P, you're embarrassing me." "Good," the elderly woman said firmly. "Someone should tell this young lady what a treasure you are." Autumn watched as Jessie diagnosed Mrs. Patterson's car problem, a worn CV joint that would need replacement, and patiently explained the repair in terms the elderly woman could understand. He quoted her a fair price and offered to pick up the car later in the week so she wouldn't have to worry about driving it in its current condition. After Mrs. Patterson left, Autumn and Jessie resumed their seats outside the office. "She adores you," Autumn observed. Jessie shrugged, uncomfortable with the praise. "She's been like a grandmother to Emma since Sarah died. It's the least I can do." Most people would say they don't have time for that kind of thing. Most people probably have busier lives than I do. Autumn set down her coffee cup and turned to face him fully. "Jessie, can I ask you something personal?" "Shoot. Are you happy?" The question surprised him with its directness. Jessie considered it seriously, looking around his shop, thinking about his life with Emma, the community he'd built in Cedar Falls. "Happy is a complicated word," he said finally. "Am I satisfied? Most days, yes. Do I wish some things were different? Sure, but I've got Emma, I've got work I'm good at, I've got people who matter to me. That feels like enough." Autumn nodded slowly. "I have everything I'm supposed to want," she said quietly. "Success, money, independence. But I can't remember the last time I felt satisfied. The last time I felt like I mattered to someone, or like what I was doing made a real difference." Jessie studied her profile as she stared out at the mountains. "What do you do for work?" "I mean, I run companies, buy them, fix them, sell them. It's all very efficient and profitable and completely devoid of human connection." She turned back to him. "I make more money in a month than most people see in a year, and last night was the first time in months that I felt like I was part of something real." The confession hung in the air between them, honest and vulnerable. Jessie found himself seeing past the expensive clothes and polished exterior to something much more fragile underneath. "Maybe," he said carefully, "you just need to find a different kind of success." Autumn smiled, but it was tinged with sadness. "Maybe I do. The question is whether I'm brave enough to figure out what that looks like." As if summoned by their deepening conversation, Jessie's phone rang with a call from another stranded motorist. As he took the details and prepared to leave for another roadside rescue, Autumn stood to go. "Thank you for the coffee," Jessie said, "and for checking on Emma's college research." "Thank you for showing me what genuine kindness looks like," Autumn replied. She hesitated at her car door. "Jessie, would it be all right if I came back sometime? I mean, if I'm in the area again?" Jessie felt something shift in his chest, a warmth that had nothing to do with the mountain sunshine. "You'd always be welcome here." As Autumn drove away, Jessie found himself hoping that sometime would come sooner rather than later. 3 days passed before Autumn returned, and Jessie found himself listening for the distinctive sound of her Maserati's engine more often than he cared to admit. When she finally did appear, it was on a Thursday afternoon during one of those perfect October days when the aspen trees blazed gold against the deep blue Colorado sky. This time, she didn't arrive alone. Jessie looked up from the vintage Mustang. He was restoring to see Autumn's car pull into the lot, followed by a massive black SUV with tinted windows. His stomach tightened as he watched 4 people in expensive suits emerge from the SUV, their movements precise and purposeful in a way that screamed corporate security or legal representation. Autumn stepped out of her Maserati looking tense, her elegant composure strained around the edges. She was back to her polished appearance, tailored business suit, hair perfectly styled, the armor of success firmly in place. But Jessie could see the stress in the tight line of her shoulders and the way she kept glancing at the suited strangers who flanked her like bodyguards. "Jessie," she said as she approached, her voice carrying a formality that hadn't been there during their coffee conversation. I hope you don't mind the unexpected visit." "Of course not," Jesse replied, setting down his wrench and wiping his hands. On a rag, he nodded toward the SUV. "Friends of yours?" Autumn's laugh was brittle. "Business associates. They insisted on accompanying me today." She glanced over her shoulder at the group, who were maintaining a respectful distance but clearly monitoring every word. "I told them about our conversation the other day, and they had some concerns." Jesse felt a chill that had nothing to do with the mountain air. "What kind of concerns?" Before Autumn could answer, one of the suited men approached. Tall, silver-haired, with the kind of commanding presence that suggested he was accustomed to being the most important person in any room. "Mr. Morgan," he said, extending a hand with the calculated warmth of a politician. "Richard Blackwood, Ms. Coleman's attorney and family advisor. I understand you've been very helpful to Ms. Coleman." Jesse shook the offered hand, noting the man's firm grip and the way his eyes catalogued every detail of the modest shop. Just doing what anyone would do. "Indeed. Well, I wanted to thank you personally for your assistance the other night. Ms. Coleman's safety is of paramount importance to all of us." Blackwood's smile was polished, but didn't reach his eyes. "I also wanted to ensure that you understand the delicate nature of Ms. Coleman's position." "I'm not sure I follow." Blackwood glanced meaningfully at Autumn, who had gone very still, beside him. "Ms. Coleman is the heir to the Coleman Industries empire. Her grandfather built the company from nothing, and it's now worth approximately $12 billion. As you might imagine, that makes her a target for all sorts of people with less than honorable intentions." Jesse felt the world shift slightly beneath his feet. $12 billion. The number was so large it didn't seem real, like something from a movie, rather than a conversation happening in his grease-stained garage. "I see," Jesse said carefully, though he wasn't sure he saw anything clearly anymore. "I'm sure you do," Blackwood continued smoothly, "which is why I wanted to have this conversation in person. We've done some research on you, Mr. Morgan." "You researched me?" Jesse's voice sharpened. "Standard procedure, I assure you. We found nothing concerning, of course. Single father, small business owner, pillar of the local community. Very admirable." Blackwood's tone managed to make it sound like admirable was a quaint anachronism. "But I'm sure you can understand our position. Ms. Coleman's previous friendships have sometimes attracted individuals who were more interested in her inheritance than in her as a person." Jesse looked at Autumn, who was staring at the ground, her face flushed with what might have been embarrassment or anger. "And you think that's what this is, I think?" Blackwood said, with the patience of someone explaining something obvious to a particularly slow student, "that you're a good man who found himself in an unusual situation. Ms. Coleman was grateful for your help, and perhaps that gratitude was misinterpreted as something more personal." "By whom?" The question seemed to catch Blackwood off guard. "I beg your pardon. Who misinterpreted her gratitude? Me or her?" Autumn's head snapped up, her eyes meeting Jesse's for the first time since she'd arrived. In them, he saw a mixture of mortification and something that might have been desperation. "That's not," she started, but Blackwood smoothly interrupted. "What I'm suggesting, Mr. Morgan, is that perhaps it would be best for everyone if Ms. Coleman's association with you remained limited to that one evening. For her protection, you understand." Jesse felt anger beginning to build in his chest, slow and hot. Her protection from what exactly? From a mechanic who helped fix her car? From the complications that arise when people from very different worlds attempt to form personal relationships? "Richard, please," Autumn said, her voice tight with controlled emotion. "That's enough." But Blackwood continued as if she hadn't spoken. "I'm prepared to offer you a substantial payment for your discretion in this matter. Let's say $50,000. In exchange for your agreement not to contact Miss Coleman again or to discuss your encounter with anyone." The garage fell silent, except for the distant sound of wind through the aspens and the soft idling of the SUV's engine. Jesse stared at Blackwood, processing what had just been offered. $50,000. More money than Jesse made in 2 years. Enough to pay off his mortgage, fund Emma's college education, maybe even expand the business. All he had to do was agree to pretend that the connection he'd felt with Autumn had never existed. "Jesse," Autumn said suddenly, her voice breaking through his thoughts, "could I speak with you privately, please?" Blackwood started to object, but Autumn cut him off with a look that could have frozen the Colorado River. "I said privately, Richard." She walked toward the back of the shop, toward the small office where she'd helped Emma with chemistry homework just a few days earlier. After a moment's hesitation, Jesse followed her, leaving Blackwood and his associates standing awkwardly. Among the car lifts and tool benches in the office, Autumn turned to face him, and Jesse was shocked to see tears in her eyes, the first genuine emotion he'd seen from her since she'd arrived. "I am so sorry," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I had no idea they were planning this. I told Richard about our conversation, about how you'd made me think about what I was missing in my life, and he jumped to conclusions." "What kind of conclusions?" Autumn's laugh was shaky. "That I was having some kind of emotional breakdown, that you were taking advantage of a vulnerable woman, that I needed to be protected from making poor decisions." She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand, smudging her perfect makeup. "He's been my family's advisor since I was a teenager. He thinks he knows what's best for me." Jesse studied her face, seeing past the tears to something deeper. "And what do you think is best for you?" "I don't know," she admitted. "For the first time in my life, I honestly don't know. All I know is that our conversation the other day was the most real interaction I've had with another human being in years. You listened to me. You saw me as a person, not as a business opportunity or a threat to be managed." "You are a person," Jesse said simply. "Money doesn't change that." Fresh tears spilled down Autumn's cheeks. "You'd be surprised how many people think it does, including me sometimes." She took a shaky breath. "Jesse, what Richard is offering, that's life-changing money. For you and Emma, I wouldn't blame you if you took it." Jesse was quiet for a long moment, thinking about Emma's college applications, about the stack of bills on his desk, about all the ways $50,000 could transform their lives. Then he thought about the woman standing in front of him, crying because she'd been treated like a commodity to be protected rather than a person capable of making her own choices. "I don't want their money," he said finally. Autumn's eyes widened. "Jesse, you don't understand. $50,000 is nothing to them. Nothing. They'll probably double it if you ask." "I still don't want it." "Why?" Jesse stepped closer. Close. Enough to see the golden flecks in her dark eyes, close enough to smell the subtle scent of her perfume, mixed with the salt of her tears. "Because taking their money would mean accepting their version of what this is," he said quietly. "And their version says that you're not capable of deciding for yourself who you want to spend time with. Their version says that any man who's interested in you must be after your money. Their version says that people like me don't deserve to know people like you." Autumn's breath caught. "And what's your version?" Jesse reached up and gently wiped a tear from her cheek, his calloused thumb rough against her soft skin. "My version says that you're an intelligent, beautiful woman who deserves to be treated with respect. My version says that if we want to be friends, or more than friends, that's our choice to make, not theirs." "More than friends?" Autumn whispered. Jesse felt his heart hammering against his ribs. "I've been thinking about you every day since you left, about our conversation, about the way you talked to Emma, about how you made me remember what it feels like to connect with someone who really Listens. He paused, searching her face. Tell me I'm not imagining this thing between us. Instead of answering with words, Autumn stepped closer and kissed him. It was soft and tentative at first, then deeper as Jesse responded, his arms coming around her waist to pull her against him. She tasted like tears and hope and the kind of courage it took to choose your own path instead of the one others had mapped out for you. When they broke apart, both were breathing hard. Outside the office, Jesse could hear the low murmur of voices. As Blackwood and his associates waited for their employer to come to her senses. What happens now? Jesse asked. Autumn straightened her shoulders, and Jesse saw steel beneath the silk. Now, I go tell Richard that his services are no longer required. And then, if you're willing, I'd like to start figuring out what this is between us. Jesse smiled, feeling lighter than he had in years. I'm willing. As they walked back toward the main shop, Autumn slipped her hand into his. It was a small gesture, but it felt like a revolution. The confrontation with Richard Blackwood was swift and decisive. Autumn emerged from the garage holding Jesse's hand, her chin raised with a determination that brooked no argument. When Blackwood began to protest, she cut him off with a voice that carried the unmistakable authority of someone accustomed to being obeyed. Richard, your services are no longer required, she said simply. Please have my personal items from the Denver office, packed and sent to my apartment. I'll be taking an extended leave of absence from Coleman Industries. Blackwood's face went through several shades of red before settling on an alarming purple. Autumn, you cannot be serious. Your grandfather's will specifically states, my grandfather's will gives me full control of my inheritance when I turn 35, which happened 6 months ago, Autumn replied coolly. Until then, I have every right to step back from active management. The board of directors is perfectly capable of running the company without my daily involvement. The corporate entourage departed in a flurry of expensive suits and barely contained outrage, leaving Jesse and Autumn standing alone in the suddenly quiet garage. Jesse found himself staring at the woman beside him, trying to reconcile the polished heiress who had just dismissed a $12 billion empire with the vulnerable person who had cried in his arms 20 minutes earlier. So, he said finally, extended leave of absence? Autumn's confident facade cracked slightly. I may have been a bit impulsive. I don't actually have anywhere to go. There's a bed and breakfast in town. Mrs. Chen runs it. Nothing fancy, but it's clean and comfortable. I was hoping, Autumn said, her voice growing softer, that you might have a better suggestion. Jesse felt his heart skip. Are you asking what I think you're asking? I'm asking if there's room in your life for someone who wants to figure out what it means to belong somewhere. Someone who's tired of living in boardrooms and wants to try living in the real world for a while. Before Jesse could answer, Emma's voice called out from the shop entrance. Dad, whose car is that outside? It looks like something from a spy movie. Emma appeared in the doorway, backpack slung over her shoulder, and stopped short when she saw Jesse and Autumn holding hands. Her eyes went wide, then a slow grin spread across her face. Oh, she said, with the particular satisfaction of a teenager who had correctly identified a developing romance. This is interesting. Emma, Jesse started, but Autumn stepped forward. Emma, I need to tell you something important. I haven't been entirely honest about who I am. Autumn took a deep breath. My family owns a very large company which makes me, well, quite wealthy. I know that might change how you think about me. Emma tilted her head, studying Autumn with the direct gaze of youth. Are you still the same person who helped me with my chemistry homework? Yes. Are you still planning to send me those articles about science communication? Of course. Then I don't really care how much money you have. Emma shrugged with the matter-of-factness of someone who had grown up. valuing character over currency. Though it does explain the really nice car, Jesse felt a rush of pride in his daughter's response, followed by a wave of anxiety about what Autumn's presence in their lives might mean. Emma, Autumn might be staying in Cedar Falls for a while. What would you think about her staying with us? Emma's grin widened. Seriously, that would be amazing. Then her expression grew more serious. But where would she sleep? The guest room is full of car parts. Jesse and Autumn looked at each other, both suddenly aware of the practical implications of their impulsive decision. Jesse's modest ranch house had 3 bedrooms, his, Emma's, and a small room that had become storage for automotive supplies and Emma's outgrown furniture. "We'll figure something out," Jesse said. "Maybe I can clear out the guest room." "Actually," Autumn said slowly, "I have another idea. What if I rented a place here in town, somewhere I could stay while I figure out what comes next?" Over the next 3 days, Autumn threw herself into the task of finding a temporary home in Cedar Falls with the same methodical approach she'd once applied to corporate acquisitions. The difference was that instead of evaluating profit margins and market penetration, she was learning about school districts and snow removal and which grocery store had the best produce. Mrs. Chen, the bed and breakfast owner, became Autumn's unofficial real estate guide and cultural interpreter. A small, energetic woman in her 60s who had moved to Cedar Falls from San Francisco 15 years earlier, Mrs. Chen understood the challenge of adapting to small-town mountain life. "The Henderson place might work," Mrs. Chen said as she and Autumn toured a small cabin on the edge of town. "It's been empty since they moved to Phoenix, furnished too, though you might want to update some things." The cabin was rustic but charming, with knotty pine walls and a stone fireplace that dominated the living room. The kitchen was small but functional, and the bedroom had windows that looked out over a meadow where deer grazed in the early morning. Light, it was the polar opposite of Autumn's sleek Denver penthouse, and she fell in love with it immediately. "I'll take it," she said, before Mrs. Chen had finished showing her the second bedroom. "Don't you want to see the rest? Check the water pressure. Ask about heating costs." Autumn smiled. "Mrs. Chen, I've spent my entire adult life analyzing every decision to death. For once, I want to choose with my heart instead of my head." By the weekend, Autumn had moved into the cabin with a collection of hastily purchased furniture and a determination to learn how to live like a normal person. The results were both amusing and endearing. Jesse found her standing in the kitchen Saturday morning, staring at a coffee maker as if it were an alien artifact. "Problem?" he asked, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "I've never actually made coffee before," she admitted. "I've always had someone else do it or bought it already made." Jesse laughed, pressing a kiss to the top of her head. "It's not exactly rocket science. Here, let me show you." As he guided her through the simple process of measuring coffee grounds and water, Jesse marveled at the intimacy of the moment. 3 weeks ago, his biggest concern had been whether Tom Henderson could afford his truck repairs. Now he was teaching a billionaire heiress how to make coffee in a cabin kitchen while morning sunlight streamed through windows that looked out on the Colorado Rockies. "There," he said, as the coffee maker gurgled to life. "Give it 5 minutes and you'll have coffee." Autumn turned in his arms, her face glowing with pride at her small accomplishment. "What else don't I know how to do?" "Probably a lot," Jesse said honestly, "but that's okay. We'll figure it out together." The integration continued throughout the week. Autumn learned to grocery shop, marveling at the process of choosing her own food instead of having meals prepared by a chef. She discovered the pleasure of doing her own laundry, even if she did accidentally turn several white items pink in her first attempt. She bought a bicycle and relearned the simple joy of riding through town, stopping to chat with neighbors and shopkeepers who were gradually accepting her as a member of their community rather than a wealthy tourist. The most significant test came on Thursday evening, when Jesse invited her to join him and Emma for dinner at the monthly community potluck held in the school gymnasium. It was a beloved Cedar Falls tradition, where everyone brought a dish to share and caught up on local news and gossip. "Are you sure about this?" Autumn asked as they walked across the school parking lot, Jesse carrying Emma's contribution of homemade cornbread and Autumn nervously clutching a store-bought apple pie. "Won't people think it's strange that I'm here? They'll think it's wonderful," Emma said confidently. "Mrs. Patterson has been asking Dad about you every day since she met you at the shop." The gymnasium was decorated with autumn leaves and pumpkins, filled with the warm buzz of conversation and the clatter of serving spoons against casserole dishes. Jesse watched as neighbors who had known him his entire life welcomed Autumn with the genuine warmth that small communities extended to people who made an effort to belong. Mrs. Patterson immediately claimed Autumn for the dessert table, peppering her with questions about her apple pie while subtly interrogating her about her intentions toward Jesse. Tom Henderson's wife dragged her into a conversation about the best places to buy winter boots, treating her as just another newcomer who needed local knowledge to survive her first Colorado winter. But the moment that convinced Jesse that Autumn truly belonged came when 8-year-old Timmy Rodriguez approached their table with tears in his eyes. His older brother had been teasing him about his science fair project, calling it stupid and worthless. Without hesitation, Autumn knelt to Timmy's level and listened with complete attention as he explained his experiment about plant growth and different types of soil. She asked thoughtful questions, made suggestions for improvements, and told him about famous scientists who had been laughed at before their discoveries changed the world. By the time Timmy returned to his family's table, he was beaming with renewed confidence, and half the gymnasium had witnessed Autumn Coleman, billionaire heiress, treating a tearful boy with the same respect and kindness she might show to a board of directors. "She's good for you," Mrs. Patterson whispered to Jesse as they watched Autumn help Emma organize an impromptu science club meeting with several younger students. "Brings out something in you I haven't seen since Sarah was alive." Jesse nodded, feeling his chest tight with emotion. For the first time since his wife's death, he could envision a future that held more than just survival, more than just getting by from one day to the next. He could see a future filled with love and laughter and the kind of partnership that made ordinary moments feel extraordinary. As they walked home under a canopy of stars, Emma skipping ahead with plans for her new science club, Autumn slipped her hand into Jesse's. "Thank you," she said quietly. "For what?" "For letting me belong. For the first time in my life, I feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." Jesse squeezed her hand, thinking about the remarkable journey that had brought them together. "Me too," he said. "Me too." For 2 blissful weeks, it seemed as though Autumn's corporate past had simply evaporated into the mountain air. She settled into the rhythm of small-town life with a contentment that surprised even her. Mornings began with coffee in Jesse's shop while he worked on early repairs. Afternoons were spent helping Emma with college applications and science projects, and evenings found them cooking dinner together in her cabin or his kitchen, learning the intimate choreography of domestic partnership. Jesse had almost begun to believe that it could last forever. The first sign of trouble came on a Monday morning when Jesse arrived at his shop to find a black sedan with government plates parked across the street. 2 men in dark suits sat inside, their attention focused entirely on his building. Jesse's stomach clenched with a familiar dread. He'd seen enough movies to recognize federal agents when he saw them. The second sign came an hour later when his phone rang. Jesse Morgan. The voice was crisp, professional, with an accent that suggested East Coast education and political connections. Speaking. "My name is Victoria Sterling. I represent certain interests related to Coleman Industries. I believe you're acquainted with Ms. Autumn Coleman. Jesse glanced out the window at the sedan, where one of the agents was speaking into a radio. I might be. Who's asking? Mr. Morgan, I think it would be beneficial for both of us to meet in person. There are some things about Ms. Coleman's situation that you need to understand. Things that could affect not only your relationship with her, but the safety and security of your family. The mention of his family made Jesse's blood run cold. What kind of things? The kind that are better discussed face to face. I'm staying at the Pinnacle Hotel in Vale. Could you meet me there this afternoon? Say, 2 o'clock? Jesse looked around his shop at the familiar tools and projects that suddenly felt fragile and vulnerable. And if I refuse, I would strongly advise against that, Mr. Morgan. This situation is bigger than you realize. After ending the call, Jesse stood staring at his phone for several minutes. Emma was at school, safe for the moment. Autumn was at her cabin, probably working on the novel she'd impulsively decided to write. Something about a woman who discovers that wealth can't buy the things that actually matter. He could call her, warn her that her past was catching up with them, but something told him he needed to understand exactly what they were facing before involving her. The drive to Vale took 40 minutes through winding mountain roads that Jesse normally found peaceful. Today, they felt like a gauntlet. The black sedan followed at a discreet distance, a constant reminder that his simple life had become complicated in ways he didn't yet understand. The Pinnacle Hotel was the kind of place where Jesse's work boots and flannel shirt drew polite but pointed looks from the staff. Victoria Sterling was waiting for him in the lobby, a woman in her 50s with silver hair and the kind of confident bearing that suggested she was accustomed to getting her way in high-stakes situations. Mr. Morgan, she said, rising from a leather chair and extending a manicured hand. Thank you for coming. Shall we find somewhere more private to talk? She led him to a small conference room off the main lobby, closing the door behind them with a soft click that sounded oddly final. Jesse took a seat across from her, his hands folded on the polished table. I'll get straight to the point, Victoria said, opening a thick folder and spreading several photographs across the table. Ms. Coleman's disappearance from Denver has created a significant problem. These are surveillance photos taken outside your shop over the past 2 weeks. Jesse looked at the images, black and white photos of him and Autumn walking hand in hand, of her helping Emma with homework, of them kissing in his kitchen. The intimate moments of their developing relationship reduced to surveillance evidence. I don't understand. Disappearance. She took a leave of absence. Victoria's smile was razor thin. Mr. Morgan, Autumn Coleman doesn't just get to take a leave of absence. She's not an employee. She's the heir to one of the largest privately held corporations in America. Her grandfather's will specifically states that if she's absent from her duties for more than 30 days without board approval, control of the company transfers to a consortium of investors who have been waiting years for exactly this opportunity. Jesse felt the ground shifting beneath him. She said she had the right to step back. She has the right to delegate certain responsibilities. She does not have the right to abandon her position entirely, which is what her current behavior suggests she's doing. Victoria leaned forward. Mr. Morgan, there are 40,000 people employed by Coleman Industries. Their jobs, their families, their futures, all of that depends on stable leadership. Autumn's romantic adventure is putting all of that at risk. It's not a romantic adventure, Jesse said, his voice hardening. It's her life, is it? Or is it a fantasy she's living at the expense of real-world responsibilities? Victoria pulled out another set of documents. This is a psychological evaluation prepared by Dr. Marcus Webb, one of the country's leading experts on inherited wealth syndrome. His assessment suggests that Ms. Coleman is experiencing what psychologists call wealth guilt. a psychological condition where individuals from extremely wealthy families reject their circumstances in favor of what they perceive as more authentic experiences. Jesse stared at the document, the words blurring slightly as he tried to process what he was being told. "You're saying she's mentally ill?" "I'm saying she's not thinking clearly. And you, Mr. Morgan, whether intentionally or not, are enabling behavior that could destroy thousands of lives." Victoria's voice carried the weight of absolute conviction. "The people who want control of Coleman Industries aren't interested in preserving jobs or maintaining the company's charitable foundations. They're interested in maximizing profit through any means necessary, including massive layoffs and the elimination of environmental protection programs." Jesse felt sick. The woman he'd fallen in love with, the woman who had brought joy and hope back into his life, was apparently living a psychological delusion that threatened the livelihoods of thousands of people. "What do you want from me?" he asked quietly. Victoria smiled, sensing victory. "I want you to convince her to come home, to return to Denver and resume her responsibilities before it's too late. And if she won't listen, then I'll be forced to take more aggressive measures. A competency hearing, perhaps. Testimony from mental health professionals about her current state of mind. Evidence of her irrational decision-making." Victoria's eyes glinted, including her relationship with a man whose financial circumstances could be seen as providing a clear motive for manipulation. The threat was unmistakable. Jesse could see how it would play out. Autumn declared mentally incompetent, their relationship characterized as him taking advantage of a vulnerable woman. Emma dragged into a legal mess that could destroy her chances of getting into college. "You have 48 hours, Mr. Morgan. If Ms. Coleman isn't back in Denver by Thursday morning, I'll have no choice but to proceed with legal action to protect both her and the company." Victoria began gathering her documents. "I'm sure you understand that this is bigger than your personal feelings. Sometimes we have to sacrifice individual happiness for the greater good." As Jesse drove back to Cedar Falls, his mind reeled with questions and doubts. Was Autumn really experiencing some kind of psychological break? Had he been selfish in encouraging her to stay, to explore a different kind of life? Were thousands of jobs really at stake? Or was this elaborate manipulation designed to force Autumn back into a role she didn't want? The mountains that had always felt like protective guardians now seemed to loom over him like judges, silent witnesses to a choice he wasn't sure he was qualified to make. By the time he reached his shop, the afternoon shadows were long, and the air carried the sharp bite of coming winter. Emma was already there, working on homework at the front desk. She looked up when he entered, her smile fading as she saw his expression. "Dad? What's wrong?" Jesse looked at his daughter, bright, hopeful, trusting, and felt the weight of the decision he was facing. Tell Autumn about the meeting and risk involving her in a legal battle that could destroy both their lives, or find a way to convince her to return to Denver without revealing the threats that had been made? "Nothing, sweetheart," he said, forcing a smile. "Just thinking about some business decisions." But as Jesse mechanically went through the motions of closing up the shop, he knew that the peaceful interlude was over. The real world had found them. And now he had to decide whether the love he'd found with Autumn was worth the potential cost to everyone else. Outside, the black sedan remained parked across the street, its occupants patient and watchful, waiting to see which choice he would make. Jesse spent a sleepless night staring at his bedroom ceiling, the weight of Victoria Sterling's ultimatum pressing down on him like a physical force. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Emma's face, not as she was now, bright and hopeful about her future, but as she might look if their lives were destroyed by a legal battle they couldn't win. He saw the faces of 40,000 strangers, whose jobs hung in the balance, people with their own families, their own dreams, their own daughters applying to college. By dawn, he had made his decision. It was the hardest choice of his life, but it was the only one he could live with. Autumn arrived at the shop around 8, as had become her custom, carrying 2 cups of coffee and wearing the soft smile that had become as essential to Jessie's mornings as oxygen. She looked radiant in the morning light, her hair loose around her shoulders, her face glowing with the kind of contentment Jessie had never expected to see in someone who had grown up with limitless wealth. "Good morning," she said, rising on her toes to kiss him. "You look tired. Rough night?" Jessie accepted the coffee but not the kiss, stepping back slightly in a way that made Autumn's smile falter. "We need to talk." Something in his tone made her set down her coffee cup and study his face with growing concern. "What's wrong?" Jessie had rehearsed this conversation in his mind dozens of times during the long night, trying different approaches, different words. None of them made what he was about to do any easier. "Autumn, I think you should go back to Denver." The words hung in the air between them like a physical blow. Autumn blinked, her face cycling through confusion, hurt, and disbelief. "I'm sorry, what?" Jessie forced himself to meet her eyes, even though what he saw there, the dawning realization that something fundamental had changed, almost broke his resolve. "This thing between us, it's not working. It's not real." "Not real?" Autumn's voice was barely above a whisper. "Jessie, what are you talking about? Yesterday you said you loved me. Yesterday I was caught up in a fantasy." The lies tasted like poison in his mouth, but he forced himself to continue. "You're a billionaire, Autumn. I'm a small-town mechanic. We live in completely different worlds. That didn't matter to you before. It should have." Jessie turned away from her, unable to bear the pain in her eyes. "I've been thinking about Emma, about her future, about what happens when this novelty wears off and you want to go back to your real life." "This is my real life," Autumn said, her voice growing stronger, more urgent. "Jessie, these past few weeks have been the most real thing I've ever experienced. You know that. We talked about this. We talked about a lot of things. That doesn't make them true." Jessie picked up a wrench from his workbench, gripping it so tightly his knuckles went white. "Look, you've been great with Emma, and I appreciate everything you've done for us. But she's starting to get attached, and I can't let her get hurt when you eventually get bored and move on." "Bored?" Autumn stepped closer, her eyes blazing with a mixture of hurt and anger. "You think I'm playing some kind of game? That I gave up my entire life in Denver because I was bored?" "I think you're going through something," Jessie said, hating himself for every word. "Some kind of crisis where you needed to feel normal for a while, but people like you don't stay in places like this. Eventually, you'll realize that." Autumn stared at him for a long moment, her breathing uneven. "People like me, rich people, powerful people, people who have responsibilities that go beyond what they want." Jessie set down the wrench and finally turned to face her. "You have a company to run, Autumn, employees who depend on you. You can't just walk away from that because you fell in love with the idea of small-town life." "The idea?" Autumn's voice cracked. "Is that what you think this is? An idea?" Jessie felt something dying inside his chest, but he pressed on. "I think you're a good person who got overwhelmed by expectations and responsibilities. I think you needed an escape, and I happened to be convenient. But running away doesn't solve problems, Autumn. It just creates new ones." Tears began to stream down Autumn's face, and Jessie had to clench his fists to keep from reaching for her. "You're wrong," she whispered. "You're wrong about everything." "Am I? Then prove it. Go back to Denver. Take care of your responsibilities. If what we have is real, it'll survive a little distance." "A little distance?" Autumn laughed bitterly through her tears. "Jessie, if I go back to Denver, I'll never get out again. You know that. They'll make sure of it. Maybe that's where you belong." The words hit Autumn like a physical blow. She took a step backward, wrapping her arms around herself as if she were suddenly cold. "I can't believe you're saying this," she said, After everything we've shared, everything we've built together, after I told you about my mother, about feeling trapped my whole life, about finding peace here with you and Emma." Jesse's resolve wavered. But then he remembered Victoria Sterling's words about 40,000 jobs, about Emma's future being destroyed by a legal battle. "Autumn, please, just go back to Denver. Give yourself some time to think clearly, away from all this." "Away from you, you mean?" Jesse nodded, even though it felt like signing his own death warrant. "Away from me." Autumn stood there for another moment, tears flowing freely now, searching his face for any sign that he didn't mean what he was saying. Jesse made himself look cold, distant, even though his heart was shattering with every second that passed. "Fine," she said finally, her voice hollow. "If that's what you want, it's what's best for everyone." Autumn wiped her tears with the back of her hand, and Jesse saw the exact moment when her hurt transformed into something harder, more self-protective. "You know what, Jesse? You're right about one thing. We do live in different worlds. In my world, when people love each other, they fight for it. They don't give up at the first sign of difficulty." She turned toward the door, then paused and looked back at him one last time. "I thought you were different. I thought you saw me for who I really am, not what I represent. I guess I was wrong." Jesse watched her walk away, every instinct screaming at him to call her back, to tell her the truth, to fight for what they had. But he didn't. He stood frozen as she got into her Maserati and drove away, the sound of the engine fading until there was nothing left but silence and the echo of his own breathing. 20 minutes later, Emma burst through the shop door, her backpack forgotten as she ran to him with tears in her eyes. "Dad, what did you do?" she demanded. "I just saw Autumn driving toward the highway and she was crying. What happened?" Jesse looked at his daughter, his brilliant, perceptive daughter, who had immediately seen through whatever facade he'd tried to maintain, and felt the last of his strength crumble. "I told her to go back to Denver," he said quietly. "Why?" Emma's voice was incredulous. "Dad, she loves you. Anyone can see that. And you love her too. Why would you?" She stopped, studying his face with the intensity of someone trying to solve a complex equation. "Someone got to you, didn't they? Someone threatened you." Jesse's silence was answer enough. "Who was it?" Emma demanded. "And what did they threaten you with?" It's complicated. There are things about Autumn's situation that what? That made you break her heart? That made you throw away the best thing that's happened to us since Mom died?" Emma's voice rose with anger and hurt. "Dad, I may be 15, but I'm not stupid. Autumn isn't some rich girl playing dress-up. She's a person who found something real with us, and you just destroyed it." Jesse sank onto a stool, suddenly feeling older than his 42 years. "I was trying to protect you, to protect all of us." "From what? From being happy?" Emma shook her head in disgust. "Mum used to say that the greatest tragedy wasn't dying young, it was living your whole life afraid to really live. You're being a coward, Dad." With that, Emma grabbed her backpack and stormed out, leaving Jesse alone in the suddenly empty shop. Outside, he could see the black sedan pulling away, its occupants apparently satisfied that their mission had been accomplished. Jesse Morgan, who had spent his entire adult life fixing things that were broken, had just broken the most precious thing he'd ever found. And for the first time in his life, he wasn't sure it was something that could be repaired. The phone on his desk rang once, a brief, sharp sound that cut through the silence. When he answered, Victoria Sterling's voice was crisp and satisfied. "Mr. Morgan, I'm told that Ms. Coleman is on her way back to Denver. I want you to know that this was the right choice. For everyone involved. Everyone involved." Jesse hung up without responding, staring out at the empty highway where Autumn's taillights had disappeared. He had made his choice, done what he thought was necessary to protect the people he loved and the strangers he'd never meet. So why did it feel like the worst mistake of his life? 3 days passed in a grey haze of regret and second-guessing. Jesse went through the motions of his daily routine, opening the shop, working on repairs, closing up at night. But his heart wasn't in any of it. Emma barely spoke to him except when absolutely necessary, her disappointment and anger radiating from her like heat from a furnace. The coffee Autumn had brought every morning sat untouched on his workbench, growing cold and bitter like everything else in his life. On Thursday evening, as Jesse was mechanically cleaning his tools and preparing to close the shop, Mrs. Patterson appeared in his doorway. The elderly woman took one look at his hollow expression and shook her head with the particular disapproval reserved for men who had made spectacularly foolish decisions. "Jesse Morgan," she said, settling herself on a stool without invitation. "You look like 10 miles of bad road." "Thanks, Mrs. P. Really what I needed to hear today. What you need to hear and what you want to hear are two different things," she replied tartly. "Now, are you going to tell me what happened with that lovely girl, or am I going to have to drag it out of you?" Jesse set down his wrench and sighed. Mrs. Patterson had a way of making people confess things they'd rather keep private. It was either tell her the truth or endure weeks of pointed questions and meaningful looks. "It's complicated," he said finally. "Complicated how? You love her, she loves you. You were both happier than I've seen either of you in years. Seems pretty straightforward. To me, there are things you don't understand, things about her situation." Mrs. Patterson fixed him with the kind of look that had probably made her students confess to cheating on tests for 30 years. "Then explain them to me." Jesse found himself telling her everything. About Victoria Sterling's visit, about the threat to Coleman Industries and the 40,000 jobs, about the psychological evaluation and the competency hearing. Mrs. Patterson listened without interruption, her expression growing more incredulous with each detail. "Let me see if I have this straight," she said when he finished. "Some corporate lawyer told you that Autumn was mentally ill and you believed her?" It wasn't just that. There were documents, psychological evaluations. "Jesse Morgan, I have known you since you were in diapers, and I have never seen you be this stupid." Mrs. Patterson's voice carried the authority of someone who had spent decades dealing with foolish young people. "Did it occur to you that these people might be lying? Why would they lie? Because Autumn Coleman is worth $12 billion. Mrs. Patterson threw her hands up in exasperation. "Do you have any idea what people will do for that kind of money? What they'll say, what they'll fabricate, who they'll threaten?" Jesse stared at her, a cold realization beginning to creep up his spine. "You think the whole thing was fake? I think a woman who spent 3 weeks learning how to make coffee and do her own laundry isn't suffering from wealth guilt syndrome," Mrs. Patterson said firmly. "I think she's a person who finally found something real and was willing to fight for it until you gave up on her." Before Jesse could respond, Emma appeared in the doorway, her face streaked with tears and her phone clutched in her hand. "Dad," she said, her voice shaking, "you need to see this." She handed him her phone, which was displaying a news article from the Denver Business Journal. The headline made Jesse's blood run cold. "Coleman Industries heiress declared mentally incompetent. Control transferred to investment consortium." Jesse read the article with growing horror. Autumn had been committed to a private psychiatric facility for evaluation after what the article described as a complete psychological breakdown characterized by erratic behavior and poor decision-making. The board of directors had voted unanimously to transfer operational control to a group of investors led by Victoria Sterling, who was quoted as saying that the decision was necessary to protect both the company and Ms. Coleman's personal welfare. "This is dated yesterday," Jesse said, his hands trembling as he handed the phone back to Emma. "Dad, they're saying she tried to give away millions of dollars to strangers and abandoned her responsibilities to live with a small-town mechanic. They're using you as evidence that she's mentally ill." Jesse felt sick. Every word he had said to Autumn during their breakup was being used to paint her as an unstable woman who had fallen prey to a gold digger's manipulation. His attempt to protect her had instead given her enemies exactly the ammunition they needed to destroy her. Mrs. P, can you stay with Emma? Jesse was already grabbing his keys and jacket. I have to go to Denver. Where are you going? Emma called after him. To fix the biggest mistake of my life. The drive to Denver normally took 2 hours. Jesse made it in 90 minutes, pushing his aging Honda to speeds that would have gotten him arrested under normal circumstances. But these weren't normal circumstances. The woman he loved was locked away in some psychiatric facility, branded as mentally ill because he had been too cowardly to fight for what they had. The psychiatric facility was an imposing brick building on the outskirts of Denver, surrounded by manicured gardens and discreet security fences. Jesse parked in the visitor lot and walked to the main entrance, his heart pounding with a mixture of determination and fear. I'm here to see Autumn Coleman, he told the receptionist, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and a gentle smile. Ah, you family? She asked. I'm her fiancé, Jesse lied without hesitation. The receptionist consulted her computer screen and frowned. I'm sorry, but Ms. Coleman isn't allowed visitors at this time. Doctor's orders. What doctor? Dr. Marcus Webb. He's the attending physician overseeing her care. Jesse felt a surge of anger. Marcus Webb, the same doctor whose psychological evaluation Victoria Sterling had shown him. The whole thing was a setup, orchestrated by people who saw Autumn as nothing more than an obstacle to their financial ambitions. I need to speak with Dr. Webb, Jesse said. He's not available at the moment. Perhaps you could call tomorrow. Ma'am, Jesse interrupted, leaning forward and speaking with quiet intensity. I need you to understand something. The woman you have in here isn't mentally ill. She's being held against her will by people who want to steal her company. I'm probably the only person who knows the truth about what's happening to her. The receptionist looked uncertain, glancing around the empty lobby as if hoping for guidance. Sir, I can't just... 5 minutes, Jesse pleaded. Just let me see her for 5 minutes. If she doesn't want to see me, I'll leave and never come back. Something in his voice must have convinced her, because she picked up her phone and spoke in low, urgent tones to someone on the other end. After a brief conversation, she hung up and looked at Jesse with what might have been sympathy. Room 237, she said quietly. 3rd floor. But if anyone asks, you were never here. Jesse took the elevator to the 3rd floor, his heart hammering against his ribs. The hallway was sterile and quiet, broken only by the soft squeak of his work boots on the polished linoleum. Room 237 was at the end of the corridor, its door slightly ajar. He knocked softly and pushed the door open. Autumn was sitting by the window, staring out at the Denver skyline with vacant eyes. She was wearing a standard hospital gown, her hair limp and unkempt, her face pale and drawn. When she turned toward the door and saw him, her expression cycled through surprise, hurt, and finally a kind of weary resignation. Hello, Jesse, she said quietly. Come to tell me that this is what's best for everyone too. Jesse felt his heart break all over again. Autumn, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry for everything I said, everything I did. None of it was true. Wasn't it? Autumn turned back to the window. Maybe you were right. Maybe I was just living a fantasy. No, Jesse said fiercely, crossing the room to kneel beside her chair. You were living the most real life I've ever seen, and I was too scared to protect it. Autumn looked at him then, really looked at him, and Jesse saw a flicker of the woman he had fallen in love with beneath the medicated exhaustion. They threatened Emma, he said. They said if I didn't convince you to leave, they'd destroy both our lives in court. They said 40,000 jobs were at stake. I thought I was protecting you, protecting everyone. And now, Jessie took her hands in his, feeling how cold and fragile they were. Now I know that the only thing I should have been protecting was us. What we had was real, Autumn. It was the realest thing in my life, and I threw it away because I was a coward. Tears began to flow down Autumn's cheeks, but her voice was steady when she spoke. They're never going to let me out of here, Jessie, not unless I agree to sign over control of the company permanently. And if I don't... She gestured helplessly at the sterile room around them. Then we'll fight them, Jessie said. Together, the way we should have from the beginning. How? I'm locked in a psychiatric facility. You're a small-town mechanic. What can we possibly do against people like Victoria Sterling? Jessie smiled for the first time in days, feeling something like hope stirring in his chest. We can tell the truth, and sometimes the truth is stronger than all the money in the world. He pulled out his phone and showed her the screen. Emma helped me research this place. Did you know that Dr. Marcus Webb lost his medical license in California for falsifying psychiatric evaluations on behalf of wealthy families trying to control inheritance disputes? Autumn's eyes widened. How did you find that out? Turns out teenage girls are very good at internet research when they're angry enough. Jessie squeezed her hands. Autumn, if you're willing to fight, I know someone who might be able to help us. But it means trusting me one more time, even after I let you down so badly. Autumn studied his face for a long moment, searching for something. Whatever she found there must have satisfied her, because she nodded slowly. What do you need me to do? Jessie felt his heart soar. I need you to be brave enough to believe in us again, and I need you to marry me. Autumn blinked in surprise. I'm sorry. What? Marry me, Jessie repeated, pulling a small velvet box from his pocket. Not because it's practical or strategic, but because I love you, and I should have said that instead of pushing you away. Because you're the strongest, bravest, most wonderful woman I've ever known, and I want to spend the rest of my life proving that I'm worthy of you. Autumn stared at the ring, a simple solitaire that he'd bought with his savings account that afternoon, and then at Jessie's face, which was shining with love and determination. Jessie Morgan, she said, her voice thick with tears, are you proposing to me in a psychiatric facility? I'm proposing to you wherever you are, Jessie said, because that's where I want to be too. Autumn laughed through her tears and threw her arms around his neck. Yes, she whispered against his ear. Yes, yes, absolutely yes. As Jessie slipped the ring onto her finger, he felt something fundamental shift in the universe. They still had to fight their way out of this mess, still had to face Victoria Sterling and her corporate machinery. But they would do it together, the way they should have from the beginning. The war wasn't over, but the battle for their hearts had finally been won. The plan came together with the kind of precision that only desperation and righteous anger could inspire. Jessie called Emma from the hospital parking lot, explaining everything while she took careful notes on her laptop. Mrs. Patterson, it turned out, had a nephew who worked as an investigative journalist for the Denver Post. And within 6 hours of Jessie's phone call, Marcus Chen was sitting in his rental car outside the psychiatric facility with a camera, a digital recorder, and a burning desire to expose corruption in high places. Emma had done her homework. Not only had she uncovered Dr. Webb's fraudulent past, but she'd also traced the ownership of the psychiatric facility back through 3 shell companies to Victoria Sterling herself. The woman hadn't just orchestrated Autumn's commitment, she owned the place where Autumn was being held. It's a complete conflict of interest, Emma explained over the phone, her voice crackling with excitement. She can't be both the person who ordered the psychiatric hold and the owner of the facility. That's illegal in Colorado. Jessie felt a surge of pride in his daughter. At 15, she was already a better detective than most adults he knew. What about the competency hearing? Scheduled for tomorrow morning at 9. But here's the thing, Dad. They're holding it in a private conference room at the facility instead of in open court. That's also illegal. Competency hearings have to be held in public unless the patient specifically requests privacy, which Autumn never did. The pieces were falling into place, but they still needed to get Autumn out of the facility before the hearing could take place. That's where Marcus Chen came in. The journalist had been investigating corporate abuse cases for 15 years, and he recognized the smell of corruption from a mile away. "I can't just walk in there and demand they release her," he told Jesse during a hurried meeting in a coffee shop near the hospital. "But I can create enough of a media firestorm that they'll have to follow proper procedures." "What do you need from us?" Marcus smiled grimly. "A story and proof. If you can get me documentation of the illegal commitment process, video evidence of the conditions inside, maybe a recording of someone admitting they're holding her against her will for financial reasons, I can have this story on the front page by tomorrow morning." Jesse thought about the kind receptionist who had let him see Autumn, about the nurses who moved through the halls with the quiet efficiency of people who knew something wasn't right, but were too intimidated to speak up. Institutions like this survived on silence and intimidation, but they were also full of decent people who would help if they knew they weren't alone. "I can get you what you need," Jesse said, "but I'll need time." "How much time?" Jesse checked his watch. It was nearly 10 p.m., which meant the night shift would be coming on duty. A smaller staff, fewer supervisors, more opportunity for honest conversations. "Give me until dawn." What followed was the longest night of Jesse's life. He returned to the facility as a grieving fiancé, spinning a story about needing to be near Autumn during her crisis. The night supervisor, a tired-looking woman named Carol, who had clearly seen too much institutional cruelty to be entirely comfortable with her job, eventually allowed him to sleep in the family waiting room. It was Carol who became their unlikely ally. During her break around 2 a.m., she sat with Jesse in the empty cafeteria and spoke in hushed tones about what she'd witnessed during Autumn's intake. She wasn't violent, wasn't incoherent, wasn't showing any signs of actual mental illness, Carol said, glancing around nervously. But Dr. Webb had already filled out all the paperwork before she even arrived. Everything was predetermined. "Would you be willing to go on record about that?" Carol was quiet for a long moment, staring into her coffee cup. "I could lose my job, my license. You could also save a woman's life," Jesse said gently, "and maybe prevent this from happening to someone else." By dawn, Jesse had testimonies from 3 nurses, a security guard, and a maintenance worker who had overheard Victoria Sterling on the phone discussing keeping the Coleman woman sedated until the hearing. He had photographs of the deliberately falsified intake documents, and most importantly, he had a video recording of Dr. Webb admitting to Carol that his evaluation had been completed before he'd ever met Autumn. Marcus Chen worked through the night, crafting a story that laid out the conspiracy in devastating detail. At 7 a.m., as Jesse sat in Autumn's room holding her hand while she slept off the effects of unnecessary sedatives, his phone buzzed with a text from the journalist. "Story goes live in 30 minutes. Be ready." The Denver Post's website crashed twice from the traffic surge when the article went live. Within an hour, it had been picked up by national news outlets. By 9 a.m., exactly when the illegal competency hearing was supposed to begin, there were 6 news vans parked outside the psychiatric facility and a crowd of reporters demanding answers. Jesse watched the chaos unfold from Autumn's window, his heart pounding with a mixture of hope and terror. Either their plan would work, or Victoria Sterling would find a way to bury them all. Dr. Webb arrived at the facility to find himself surrounded by cameras and shouted questions about his fraudulent medical license. He fled without comment, but the damage was done. Within minutes, the facility's administrator was on the phone with lawyers, and shortly after that, a very different kind of doctor appeared in Autumn's room. "Ms. Coleman," said Dr. Sarah Martinez, the court-appointed psychiatrist who had been rushed to the facility by an emergency judicial order, "I'm here to conduct an independent evaluation. I need to ask you some questions." Autumn, who had been gradually coming out of her medicated haze as the morning progressed, answered with the clarity and intelligence that Jessie had always known her to possess. Yes, she understood where she was and why she had been brought there. No, she was not experiencing any delusions or hallucinations. Yes, she was capable of making her own decisions about her medical care and her business affairs. The evaluation took less than an hour. Dr. Martinez's report was succinct and damning. Patient shows no signs of mental illness, psychosis, or cognitive impairment. Current commitment appears to be without medical justification. By noon, Autumn was free. They walked out of the facility together, past the crowd of reporters and cameras, past Victoria Sterling, who stood white-faced and silent beside her expensive lawyers. Jesse kept his arm around Autumn's shoulders, not just to support her, but to remind himself that this was real, that they had actually won. "Where do you want to go?" he asked as they reached his Honda in the parking lot. Autumn looked at the car, then at him, then at the ring on her finger that caught the sunlight like a promise. "Home," she said simply. "I want to go home to Cedar Falls." The drive back to the mountains was surreal. News radio stations were covering the story, with legal experts discussing the implications for corporate governance and elder abuse. But inside Jesse's Honda, there was only the quiet conversation of two people who had found their way back to each other. "What happens now?" Jesse asked, as they wound through the familiar curves that led to Cedar Falls. "With the company, I mean. Autumn was quiet for a moment, watching the aspen trees flash by in their autumn glory. "I'm thinking about making some changes. Maybe stepping back from day-to-day operations and focusing on the foundation work. There are a lot of good people who can run Coleman Industries better than I can, but not many who understand what it means to use that wealth responsibly. And us," Autumn reached over and took his hand, interlacing their fingers. "Us, I want to build something different, something real, maybe a foundation that helps small communities like Cedar Falls, that invests in people instead of just profits." She smiled at him. "Think you'd be interested in helping me figure out what that looks like?" Jesse thought about the town waiting for them in the mountains, about Emma, who was probably pacing the shop floor waiting for news, about Mrs. Patterson, who would want all the details over apple pie and coffee. He thought about the life they could build together. Not perfect, not without challenges, but honest and filled with the kind of love that could weather any storm. "I can't think of anything I'd rather do," he said, as they crested the final hill and Cedar Falls spread out below them, nestled between the peaks like a jewel in a setting. Jesse felt something settle in his chest. They were home. Not just to a place, but to each other, to a future they would build together one day at a time. The wedding would come later, a simple ceremony in the town square with half of Cedar Falls in attendance and Mrs. Patterson crying into her handkerchief. The foundation would take shape slowly, carefully, with Emma's input on education initiatives and Jesse's practical wisdom about what small communities actually needed. But for now, it was enough to drive down Main Street hand in hand, past Jesse's Auto Care, where Emma was probably waiting with a celebration dinner planned, past the cabin where Autumn would spend her last night before moving into the ranch house permanently, past all the ordinary places that had become extraordinary simply because they had found each other there. Sometimes the most important journeys begin with a broken-down car on a dark highway. Sometimes love finds you when you're not looking for it, when you're just trying to be decent to a stranger who needs help. And sometimes, if you're very lucky and very brave, that love is strong enough to change everything. The spring wedding took place on a perfect May morning when the Colorado Rockies were painted in shades of emerald and gold, and the air in Cedar Falls carried the sweet promise of new beginnings. Just as Jesse had predicted, half the town showed up to witness the union of their beloved mechanic and the billionaire heiress who had chosen love over luxury. Mrs. Patterson did indeed cry into her handkerchief, though she insisted it was only because the mountain air was particularly crisp that day. Emma served as maid of honor, radiant in a pale blue dress that matched her eyes, carrying a bouquet of wildflowers she had picked herself from the meadow behind Autumn's cabin, which was now officially their cabin, though they spent most nights at the ranch house that had become a true family home. The ceremony was held in the town square, beneath an arch of aspen branches that Tom Henderson and his sons had constructed with the same care they would give to a precision engine repair. Marcus Chen covered the wedding for the Denver Post, though this time his article focused on small-town community spirit rather than corporate corruption. The headline read simply, "Sometimes love really does conquer all." Victoria Sterling had quietly disappeared from public life after her conspiracy unraveled, taking early retirement from Coleman Industries amid a federal investigation into her business practices. Dr. Webb had lost his medical license permanently and was facing criminal charges for fraud. The psychiatric facility had been shut down, pending a complete overhaul of its practices and ownership structure. But those victories, while satisfying, weren't what mattered most to Jesse and Autumn as they exchanged vows in front of their chosen family. What mattered was the future they were promising to build together, a future that honored both their different backgrounds and their shared values. The Coleman Foundation had officially launched 2 months earlier, with Emma serving as its youngest board member and Jesse as its director of community outreach. Their first major initiative was a program that provided grants and technical support to small mountain communities throughout Colorado, helping them preserve their character while adapting to economic challenges. Cedar Falls had been the pilot program, and the results were already visible in the form of a restored library, updated emergency services, and a new community center that hosted everything from town meetings to Emma's science club gatherings. Jesse still ran his auto shop, though now it was part of a larger vision that included training programs for young mechanics and partnerships with technical colleges. Autumn split her time between foundation work and what she laughingly called real life, cooking dinners that sometimes burned, learning to garden in the Rocky Mountain soil, and discovering that happiness could be found in the simple pleasure of reading a book by the fireplace while Jesse worked on his latest restoration project in the garage. Emma had received early acceptance to Colorado State University with a full scholarship for science journalism, a field that perfectly combined her love of research with her talent for communication. She would be staying in-state, close enough to visit on weekends, but far enough away to begin her own adventure. The whole family was proud beyond measure as the newlyweds danced their first dance to "You Are My Sunshine," played by a local bluegrass band. Jesse reflected on the extraordinary journey that had brought them to this moment. A broken-down Maserati on a dark highway had led to a love story that changed not just their lives, but the lives of everyone around them. Their story proved that sometimes the greatest treasures aren't found in boardrooms or bank accounts, but in the simple act of helping a stranger, in the courage to fight for what matters, and in the willingness to believe that love, real, honest, transformative love, can overcome any obstacle. As the celebration continued into the mountain evening, with fairy lights twinkling overhead and laughter echoing off the peaks, Jesse and Autumn, Morgan knew they had found something worth more than all the money in the world. They had found home in each other, and in doing so, they had found themselves. Sometimes, a single flat tire really can steer you toward everything you never knew you needed. And sometimes, that journey leads not just to love, but to a life of purpose, community, and the kind of happiness that radiates outward, touching every life it encounters. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.